What are we going to read today?
Yes, we're getting ready to start. Here we go. Okay, so yesterday we learned that farm families took trips into town to buy or barter for goods. What does that mean, to buy or barter? Buy means you use money. I know you know what that means. What does it mean to barter for something? Ryan?
Means to trade.
To trade. I'll give you my pencil for that bag of potato chips. That's trading or bartering. Goods is another word for things that you buy.
Excuse
Okay.
me?
Yes, honey.
Are we going to read the story again?
We're going to read another story. I need you to keep your microphone muted.
Okay.
Okay. So now, here's what we talked about in our story yesterday. This is the town square. It's called a town square because it's in the shape of a square and it has lots of shops in it. We learned what each of these shops were. Let's see if we can identify them quickly. I'm going to point to a shop and call a name. What would this shop be called, Jonyan? The Hatter shop. The Hatter. We have the Hatter, the blacksmith, the weaver, the bread maker, the cobbler, the tailor, the dressmaker, and a trading post. The trading post, or the general store. So the general store is usually one of the first stores you come to in town. That's why I put its image right here. Let's take a look here. We learned about tradespeople. Those are the different people in the town who do different jobs. Here are pictures of lots of tradespeople. There's a baker, a blacksmith, some seamstresses, another seamstress, a baker, bread, flour, and a welder. Let's try to sort these pictures from then to now. So I'm going to sort them with you.
Wait, what's a welder?
A welder, it's kind of like a blacksmith. You use metal and weld things together. That's a great question. So, where am I going to put this baker? Does she look like someone who is a baker from long ago or a baker from now? Landon?
A baker from now. And I also have a question.
What's your question?
Are we doing this too, or are you just doing it?
I'm just doing it right now, but we're
Okay.
sorting it together.
Okay.
Okay. Uh-oh. What happened to my computer? My projector just shut off. Let's give it a second. I think it's rebooting.
Excuse me, Skates?
Yes.
In my old school, we have a projector too.
Yep. Let's see if it fixes the problem.
In mine too.
Here we go. Okay. So, we said that this is a baker from now. Where is the baker from long ago? Can you tell me? Is it in the top right corner or the top left corner? Where is it? Nicole?
Left.
It's in the top right corner. So that is a baker from then or long ago. All right. Can someone tell me a job from now that you see? Jonyan, what's a job from now that you see?
The bottom.
Oh, the seamstress. Yes, this is what a modern day, whoops, should go over here, seamstress looks like. She's a seamstress from now. Where is a seamstress from long ago? This is kind of hard to see, but here's a picture of seamstresses from long ago, sewing together in a group. Which one is the blacksmith from long ago? Is it this one? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs down. It's this one. This is an older blacksmith. So this is from then, this blacksmith. And this blacksmith is from now. These items in the middle are things that we used long ago and we still use them now. For example, we still use flour to make bread and we still make bread. This is called a Venn diagram. You have the two sides that are different and in the middle it's the same, or things that they both use. Okay, very good. Okay. In today's lesson, you're going to hear about two different tradespeople, the miller and the baker. The tradespeople helped with different steps in the process of making bread. Look at this poem. This poem is called Pat a Cake, Baker's Man. Have you ever heard of that poem? Raise your hand if you have. Of course you have. You probably read it long ago. The poem goes like this. Feel free to sing along. Let me fix my book so my page won't shut. Pat a cake, baker's man. Bake me a cake as fast as you can. Pat it, prick it, mark it with the B. Put it in the oven for baby and me. So, that's the nursery rhyme from long ago. That rhyme was actually written during colonial times. Here are some vocabulary words. What is this? This is dough. Dough is used to make bread. Add flour, water, and yeast, and you have dough. The dough has to sit and rise, and then you can make bread from it. One of the most important ingredients in making bread is flour. And to get flour, you need a tool like this called a grinder. This is something they would have in colonial times. You would pour the wheat into the top, turn the handle, and flour will grind out. Here are some different types of bread. Did any of you have a favorite type of bread? If so, raise your hand and share it with me. Adeline, what's your favorite bread?
The rolling bread that comes from Panera.
Okay, Panera bread, that loaf of bread, very good. My favorite's banana bread. That's my very, very favorite. what's your name? Anya. What's your favorite bread?
I like baguette.
Baguette bread. Very good, like a French loaf. Landon, what's your favorite bread?
Sweet bread.
Oh, like a sweet roll bread,
Yeah.
cinnamon bread? Okay. Excellent. Carolyn?
My favorite bread is croissant.
A croissant. Very good. Ryan?
Cheesewood.
Oh, yummy. Smriti?
I like two. Croissants and banana bread.
Okay. And Nicole? You'll be our last. Oh, no, I got Russell after you. Quickly, Nicole.
Let me tell you, I like this kind of bread had like
Raisins.
black, like this is chocolate with bread on it.
Oh, okay. I thought it was raisin bread. Russell, what's your favorite bread?
Croissant.
Oh, yummy. Okay, so our main purpose for listening to this story, our main topic or main idea is how bread was made during colonial times. That's very different than how bread is made now. Listen carefully and learn about the jobs of two colonial tradespeople, the miller and the baker. So the two jobs we're looking at today are the miller and the baker. Those are the tradespeople. This is a loaf of bread. In colonial times, most bread was made from wheat or corn. Where do you think the wheat and corn were grown? Raise your hand. Where did they grow the wheat and the corn? Estelle?
On the farm.
On a farm. Very good. Farm families raised wheat and corn as crops. Today, we'll hear about a tradesperson who helps farmers turn their wheat or corn into flour. Then later, we'll hear about another tradesperson who turns the flour into bread. What crop is growing in this field? Raise your hand. Anya?
I think corn.
It's actually wheat. Wheat. These little bitty seeds on the stem of the grass are wheat. Do you remember hearing the story, The Little Red Hen? What steps did the hen have to take to get fresh bread? Who remembers what she had to do? Her first step was, Landon?
Get flour.
No, she had to plant the wheat. She had to plant the seed.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah. Ryan, what did she do after she grew the wheat? What would she have to do to it?
Grind the wheat.
She would cut the wheat and grind it to flour. After she ground it into flour, what would she do next? Jonyan, what would she do after she ground the wheat into flour?
Cut the wheat.
No.
Cook
She's-
it.
Not yet. She has to make the, we talked about it in our vocabulary word, the dough. She has to make the dough. Then she would bake the bread. Before the farmer can grind the wheat into flour, he had to separate out the seeds or wheat berries from the plant. The only berries that can be used to make flour. See the little seeds? They have to take their fingers and take all those seeds off before it can be ground into wheat. Long ago, people used to grind their own wheat grains or corn kernels with stones called grinding stones. Grindstones are two stones used to crush wheat or corn to make flour. So you would put your wheat in that rock bowl, and you would take the rock and you would pound it to crush it into flour. Would that take you a long time and be a lot of hard work? Yeah. To grind corn or wheat into flour, the kernels were placed into the large grindstone, which made a bowl shape. The farmer would hold the smaller grindstone in their hand and use the grindstone to crush the grains into smaller pieces by hitting them again and again and again. Making flour with a pair of grindstones took a really long time. This is a mill. Mills have special machinery that grind grain into flour. The mill was built next to a river. The flowing water made the mill's water wheel turn. A mill that used water to turn the millstones was called a water mill. So see this giant wheel? There is a creek back there, and the water runs from the creek down this pipe and onto the wheel, and the wheel spins. The old mill in in Oak Ridge has one too. That big red old mill. You should try to visit it if you can. Inside the mill.
Kate, are you sure people work there, because it looks abandoned?
Yep, people work there. Inside the mill, large stones were turned when water flowed over the water wheel outside. As the water flowed, the water wheel turned. As the water wheel turned, the millstones would turn and crush the grains into flour between the two millstones. So one millstone would be upright and it would turn, and the bottom one would turn and it would crush the flour for you. People could lift grindstones with their hands, but the millstones were so large and heavy, they had to be turned by water power. You just heard two ways grains could be crushed into flour. One by your hand using a grindstone, and the other using a water mill and millstones. Which is larger, a grindstone or a water millstone? Which one's larger? Carolyn?
The water wheel.
The water millstone. These are too heavy to lift by hand. That's why they need the water and the big wheel to turn them. Very good. Which way do you think can grind grain into flour faster? Grinding grain by your hand using a grindstone, or grinding grain in a mill? Which way is faster? If you think a grindstone's faster, give me a thumbs up. If you think a water mill is faster to grind wheat, do thumbs to the side. Very good, thumbs to the side. A water mill is much faster and efficient. A miller is a tradesperson who works at the mill. Say miller. The farmer could take his grains of wheat and corn to the miller, and the miller could grind the wheat and corn into flour. The miller would grind grains into flour. Then the flour was stored in bags made of cloth called sacks. Who do you think could grind more flour in a day? A miller with a water mill or a farmer with a grindstone? Who could grind more? A farmer or a miller with a water mill or a farmer with a grindstone? Right, a miller with a water mill. Excellent. Farmers would pay the miller or barter some of their wheat or corn in exchange for flour. Can you think of the name of the colonial tradesperson who would buy flour from the miller and use it to make breads, muffins, or cake? What's the name of another tradesperson that would buy flour to make breads, muffins, or cake? Ryan?
The baker.
A baker. You're exactly right. The baker shop was placed where colonial families and townspeople could buy bread, cakes, biscuits that were already made. This baker is making bread. Before bread is baked, the baker mixes a lot of flour with a little bit of water and a little bit of salt and a little bit of yeast. This mix of ingredients is called dough. Later, the baker will shape and bake the dough to make bread. Yeast is an ingredient that colonial bakers, as well as bakers today, use to make bread rise when it is baked. So you know how your bread is big and fluffy? If you didn't put yeast in your bread would turn out like flat, like a pancake. So that's why they put yeast in it. That's something that they used long ago and today. Yeast, when added to flour and water, makes dough rise and become soft and puffy. Now the baker in this picture is kneading the bread. Kneading the dough is like pressing and pulling the dough in many different ways to make sure it's mixed well. You guys probably do that with Play-Doh. You smush it, you pull it, you smush it, you pull it, you smush it, you pull it to make sure everything is mixed. Smriti, do you have a question?
What's yeast?
Yeast is an ingredient that we put in the dough to help make the bread rise up and make it fluffy. Okay. Certain kinds of bread had to be kneaded for a long time before the dough had the right texture. When the dough's texture, that means how it felt, was smooth, it was ready to be shaped into loaves and baked. The baker would shape the dough with his or her hands or use a rolling pin. Finally, the dough would be ready to bake. In colonial times, the baker's ovens were made of brick or stone with fires inside. The baker needed lots of chopped wood from trees to keep the fire in the oven burning so the bread would bake. This kind of oven is called a wood-fired oven. The baker would put the dough into the oven and bake it until it was brown. When it came out of the oven, it had a wonderful aroma or smell of freshly baked bread. Does this look like a picture from a bakery long ago or a bakery today? Is it a bakery long ago or a bakery today? A bakery today. Bread is made in more or less the same way it was made in colonial times. 300 years ago, wheat or corn crops from a farm are ground into flour. Then the flour is made into dough by mixing it with yeast, water, and salt. The dough is kneaded and then shaped into a loaf. Last, the loaf is baked in an oven until it is brown. Just like families long ago, families today enjoy buying bread from a bakery. Why do you think families today or long ago would buy bread from a bakery instead of making it at home? Raise your hand. Why do you think families from today and long ago would rather buy their bread in a bakery instead of making it themselves? Estelle?
There's so much steps because Little Red Hen had to do all those steps to make her yummy bread.
Right, it would take you all day maybe to make bread. And you might have other things you needed to do. So it's easier if you could go to the bakery and buy it. When people buy bread from a baker, they are the baker's customers. Customers give the tradesperson money or barter for the products or things the trade person has made. Bakers often start their baking in the early morning so their customers can have fresh bread for breakfast. Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions about what we just read. What is the main topic of today's read aloud? Are we? Are you having trouble unmuting? Okay, Are we can't unmute. We learned about 2 tradespeople. Who were they? Adeline, can you tell me who they were?
What did you say?
Who are the 2 tradespeople we learned about today?
I think
the baker and the
baker.
no. Russell, help her out.
Farmer.
The miller. The miller and the baker. Remember, the miller is the one who lived at the mill and was able to grind the wheat into flour. Then the miller would sell his wheat to the baker, and she would bake it into breads. What are 2 crops used to make flour? What are 2 crops used to make flour? Ryan?
The miller or the mill.
No, those are the tradespeople. What crop do they use?
Wonder. It's wonder.
No. What crop? Think of a crop. It's something that grows out of the ground. Anya?
Is it flour?
No.
It's wheat and corn.
Yes, you are on the right track, Ryan. Wheat and corn are ground into flour. That's what it is. Okay. What is the baker making when he mixes together flour, wheat, salt, and yeast? What's he making? Nicole?
Bread.
Bread. Excellent. What does kneading look like? Show me. Show me on the screen. What does kneading the bread look like? Show me. Anya's showing me. Push and pull and tug and pat and push and pull. That's kneading the bread, mixing it together. Excellent. Why would colonial families buy or barter with millers and bakers? This is our last question. Why would colonial families buy and barter with millers and bakers? Why would they do that? Carolyn?
They want to bake the bread. They're always going to be longer, and they buy the bread can be easier.
Yes. So, you're exactly right. It's easier to just buy a loaf of bread than spend all day making it, because you may have other chores on the farm that you need to get done. So you would barter or trade to get the items that you needed, or you would pay with money. Very good, friends. Now, Miss Kate's, let's see if I can pull it up. I have on here a video that you can watch. Let's come right here. My computer's being a little bit slow today. Okay, so if we scroll down to Wednesday, here I have highlighted in blue, if you look on the screen right here, a read aloud that you can watch. There is a TV show and a book called Little House on the Prairie. The first one was called Little House in the Big Woods. And this is a picture book of that family and how they would go to town to barter for the goods that they need. So this would be something good to watch. All right, friends. Thank you so much for joining.